My guest is a stand-up comedian and writer from Seattle. She competed in the 2019 Seattle International Comedy Competition, is written for Flexx Mag, Slackjaw, and is the editor of the Foreigner blog. I'm excited to welcome Arijana Ramic, or Ramic.
Great question.
Yeah.
Technically both and technically neither. So my name is Arijana Ramic, but I just say Ramic or Ramich or, whatever.
Okay.
So,
Because I heard you this week say, I'm like, I think every 90% of the guests I fuck up their name.
Well, I've been having an existential crisis about it because
Really?
I've always just said Ramic because I'm like, whatever, I don't care. But then some people are like, you should always say your name correctly to white people because they want to protect their identity and stuff, which I think is a beautiful thing, but I just don't care.
It's just easier.
Yeah. That's horrible. I'm going to get there. We're 1 minute in and I'm already making wild accusations.
I mean, that's fun. I mean, what is that name, by the way? Is it Eskimo or something?
Yeah, we have 30,000 words for snow. No, it's Bosnian. And I have been trying to say it correctly to people, but it's hard when it's people who have always known it the other way. So all my friends, I'm like, having this conversation.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, after 15 years of being friends, I'm like, oh, actually, it'd be great if you could say my name correctly.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I get it. I mean, I should do that, but yeah.
Where is Bosnia? Because I looked on a map before this. I was like, I think it changed or what?
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions about your heritage.
Bosnia's in my heart. No, it used to be in former Yugoslavia before the country, split into a bunch of different countries, but it's in the Balkan region, not Baltic as people seem to think. But it's the Balkan region. So it's Croatia hugs it. So it's kind of near the Mediterranean by Italy,
east
Croatia.
of Italy, right?
Yeah.
And on the coast.
So Bosnia technically only has one very, very tiny piece of coast.
Okay.
Because Croatia has the whole coastline area. But yeah, Balkan region. Most people say Eastern Europe, but it's kind of in this weird area where it's a lot of people, when they think of Eastern Europe, they're thinking of Ukraine and
Eastern
former
Bloc
Soviet.
or
Yeah. And it's not that. It's kind of Mediterranean more so. So
I forgot to look at the camera. So how do you?
Oh,
you look good.
I look fantastic.
Yeah, you're good. I just want to. We had some camera issues the last episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what? I don't know anything about your people.
Thank you.
Can you explain, what are they known for? What?
Oh my God, yeah.
And I'm really bad at history.
That's fine.
It's, I moved around a lot, so I kept,
Wait,
different
where were you
schools.
Born?
Vermont.
Okay.
And I think I'm, French Canadian and English, but it's, a little...
Yeah,
because
muddled.
My grandpa took his mom's maiden name.
Oh, that's sick. Okay.
So
do you know why he did that?
It was a bastard child thing where
I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
I really love that.
I think he did not want his dad's name.
Nice.
Or she didn't. Okay. It was one of those things. So I don't think we even really know what our real family name is.
Right. Okay.
And I think we did someone did Ancestry or whatever, the 23andMe thing, and it came back with English, but I don't know.
Okay. I mean, we're all a little English, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't know.
But English and French Canadian, what word? I mean, French and Canadian both.
The French
suck.
Canadian word. Yeah.
It's they're both. I got no street cred for any of my heritage.
I know. Yeah, the Canadians, they're so aggressive.
It's so much respect from everywhere too.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day you'll go to Quebec and just feel right at home or something.
That's probably all I have to do.
So Bosnia is kind of Balkan people, they're kind of known for being a little bit kind of like, cold exterior, kind of maybe a little bit gaudy, but also really hardworking people, very family oriented, like some really good food. Like we have like chivap, which are basically like little sausages and stuff.
Okay.
Like stuff with cabbage, so I don't know. It's but we're also like, whenever anyone brings up Bosnia, they bring up the war, obviously, over there. So that's kind of, I think, shrouded a lot of its history, because basically Bosnia has 3 different ethnicities and, religions in one country. And so it's kind of this weird, amalgamation. Yeah. So I think it's a beautiful thing. But when the war happened, like, a lot of people got like kind of their own nation state. So they, like, Serbians got Serbia and Croatians got Croatia. And then Bosnians just are like in this weird mixed country kind of thing. So I would say mostly known for war. Like, every time you see us referenced in the media, it's like, oh, Bosnia doesn't have roads, or there's a war or something, so it's kind of like a sad depiction, but it also is just like fucking true, because there's a war like every 50 years there. They're gearing up maybe for another one soon. So like, it is what it is. So
did your parents, they were the first generation to immigrate, or was it?
Yeah. So that's kind of a crazy story in and of itself. So my parents, they came here in 93 and I was born in 94. So I have 2 older sisters. So they came here with my 2 older sisters when they were babies.
94.
Mm-hmm.
You're a lot.
Yeah.
You
Wait,
carry
how
yourself.
old did you think I was? Because everyone thinks I'm older.
Yeah, you carry yourself like I don't know.
I'm 38.
Closer to my age.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wait, how old are you?
27.
Wait, I'm 27.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Okay. I was like, wait, what do you mean? We're both born in 94.
No, I'm coming up on
33
in May. So.
Yeah, I've been told I'm an old soul, which whatever that means.
Isn't that like, I mean, you write, like, isn't that kind of, a lot of writers feel that way, or like get that?
Yeah, maybe because you're more sensitive or introspective or something.
A lot of feelings, yeah.
Yeah, I've always had like friends who are way older than me, and I think it's also just like an emotional intelligence thing. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm like, the most emotionally intelligent, but I'm quite sensitive. Like, I can tell when other people feel
certain
off.
things.
Yeah. Maybe
I don't
that's
have that
as smart. Yeah, you seem like you're 16. So yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
I grew up with 2 brothers, and it was just like, I don't know. You grew up in a house of boys.
Yeah. Wait, are you the youngest or middle? Oh, middle child. Okay, so you're the forgotten little. Yeah. Can I tell you something though? I think middle children are the warriors.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Why is that?
So one of my best friends, she's my cousin. She's a middle child, and my middle sister.
Your cousin is the way you said that.
I know. Well, I was gonna say one of my friends, and then I was like, well, I should just say my cousin.
Give her full credit. Just the blood ties.
No, because it feels like, I don't know. Cousin feels so just like, oh, my cousin, but she's like truly one of my best friends. Yeah. But she's a middle child, and then my middle sister, they have just like taught me so much about being unapologetic and being yourself, and like just like having your opinion and holding on to whatever it is. Not that you can't change your mind or something, but just being really sure of themselves. And they're both like very fierce personalities, and I just love that so much about them, because I'm very much like, I think especially growing up, was like people pleaser personality. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, no, this is my opinion and you can have yours, but I'm going to have my own kind of thing. And I love that. Yeah.
I think it's an originality thing.
Yeah.
Probably for, like that's how I feel. Cause like, I don't like trendy shit.
Yeah.
Like even like I was with Barunji last night, and he's like, hey man, you dress like you're in high school still. It's like, I do. Like,
Barunji wears the same shirt every week.
He's got 4 T-shirts. I don't know where this is coming from, especially from him, but he's always there to be generous and kind.
Always too, so. With a joke,
But
he's the worst.
I'm like, dude, I didn't get into comedy to like, I don't know, like start being somebody I'm not, you know, like I'm hoping to be the best version of me out
you're
there.
Like,
not
I'm barely holding it together.
I'm not trying to be Sinbad. Like, I don't, it's just.
You could totally be Sinbad though.
That's the thing. I could definitely sell out. If I like dolled myself up, I can do that. I did that in my 20s. That's why I don't want to do that anymore, because it didn't work.
I love when people dress nice on stage, but I can't bring myself to do it.
Why?
It's this weird, I've thought about it a lot, actually. It's this one thing, it's like a comfort thing where I feel most like myself in like, you know, jeans and a jacket or something, you know, because it doesn't feel like it's like trying too hard, and it also feels like approachable. And I've also noticed that like people treat me a certain way depending on what I'm wearing as well. But like I've never worn a skirt or a dress or heels when I perform, and I'm dreading the day where, God forbid, I book a corporate gig or something and have to look nice. Yeah, because I will fall apart.
It just doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel funny.
I mean, like, okay, but like Bernice and Stephanie look amazing on stage every time they perform, and I'm like, man, I should really like step it up.
Well,
and
Bernice,
like, you know,
she did the podcast too. I don't know if we talked about it, but she always
phenomenal.
She looks. But I think Bernice would do that anyway. Like, she's not going to go out of the house. That's who she is. So like, I don't have a problem with, I'm just kind of, I dress like shit. I don't want, I don't care about the, you know why? Because I don't want people judging me, like judging my character based on what I'm wearing on an external level. Yeah.
Well,
like,
I grew
it's
up,
fake to me.
Yeah. I always grew up hearing like, you know, if you care about how you look, you don't care about how smart you are. And I think that is so toxic. And I really internalized that because now it's like, oh, like if you put an effort into how you look, like it took me a long time to have a skincare routine for that reason. Like, you know,
that's actually really,
like, it's really messed up. Like we should take care of ourselves. And I totally believe in that. It's just one of those internalized
that
things.
Might be an overcorrection.
Like maybe brush your teeth. Yeah.
Flossing. Who are you, stupid?
What a revelation. Yeah. Call the press.
That's crazy though.
So I think that I get so embarrassed. Like once I was out with my friends, not comedy friends, and I ran into my comedy friends and I looked pretty cute and I got so embarrassed. I was like, I cannot have my comedy friends seeing me like this. Like I'll dress up with my girls all the time. Yeah. But only for them, you know. If I'm like about to see comedy people, I'm like, I cannot look nice like that. It just doesn't. It's a weird. You're supposed to. I feel like it's this messed up thing where I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be funny, but you can be funny and you can be cute and you can do whatever you want. We can be complex people, and that's part. That's what I don't like is when like people try to dictate like. You're funny and you need to look this it's like people can be dressed up and look nice, they can be dressed like shit. What I think what matters is like you got to be comfortable in whatever you're wearing on stage, and if you aren't comfortable in a skirt and all that shit, how are you supposed to be funny if you're not comfortable? Or there's also the opposite thing that's worse, where it's like open micers wearing suits. Like maybe we don't do that, you know. Like it's like, where is the line? You know, like we should judge people for that. Maybe we don't do that. That's something we can judge people for. There's definitely someone that comes to mind, but it's. I think we're thinking of the same. Oh yeah, but it's look at the same time something like that. He's living his John Mulaney fantasy, and I love that. But the thing is, like, I know some people where their preferred method of, like, I had this boss where they were like, we have a uniform in our group on this team, and I like it because it's like, I don't have to make that decision every day. Yeah. And I respect that. Like, I don't be comfortable with whatever you're in, even if it's a fucking suit. Yeah. I've never been physically comfortable in a suit. It's the most uncomfortable, like wearing a tie or any of that shit. I hate it. Okay. Yeah. But if that's what you're comfortable in, I respect it. Like, I mean, you could wear Uggs boots here, you know, if you want to. I'm not going to judge you for it. Well, like, I find it interesting because I feel like you come across on stage as like you could totally be like some just like shitty like skinhead or like you know what I mean, like when you walk on stage, but then you're not that when you perform. And like maybe that works to your advantage, maybe it works to your disadvantage, you know, like what if one day you went on stage and you're just wearing like the flyest outfit ever, like you know, whatever that is for you, instead of just like jeans and a t-shirt, right? Like that could totally change the audience's perception of you.
Yeah, I just, maybe I'll try it.
Maybe you have to try it and report back to the pod.
Yeah,
like
I just like, I don't ever want somebody shitting on me in the back of the room for dressing too nice. That's some of it, you know?
Okay,
like
now we're getting to the real thing.
Yeah, like that
so
too.
you're
Like,
scared of
if it's like, no, but he's literally shitting on me for dressing not nice enough.
He would shit on you either way. He's just that way.
He's not a good person.
No, he's not.
He's a very bad, and I both of us agree. But the crazy thing is, he offers so much help to new comedians.
Okay.
Like he'll give people notes.
I think that's just an ego thing. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
They'll send him tapes and he'll review them. He's always there to help the newest person.
Yeah. You know what?
Going above and beyond.
That is something that is truly unique, because I feel like whenever there's new people in the scene, it's so easy to be like, well, I've been here 4 years, you know, and like get on your high horse.
It's not a question of like, well, maybe it's been time for you to leave for like 2 years now. You know, because a lot of the people that were really good are gone now.
Yeah, they're moving. You have to. You cannot stay in Seattle. Is this thing?
Yeah, but there's still folks that
you can, right?
They don't, and then they have that horse you're talking about.
The horse.
The high horse.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, here's the thing. I think that you can stay in Seattle, and plenty of people either have their base here and travel, or like there's people who are just like want to live here and produce here and do shows here and stuff. But I think the people that some people get stuck in a loop here, you know, because it's like there's only so much you can do in so many shows, especially after COVID. Like there aren't that many, you know, showcases and stuff as much as there were before. So it's just kind of like you can get stuck in this loop and just plateau really easily here, versus like a city like Chicago or, you know, New York, where you can hit up multiple mics a night and people are really hustling and stuff. It's just a different, like there's you're building material faster. Yeah.
In those scenes.
Yeah. Here, everyone knows everyone.
And I kind of like that in some regards.
Yeah,
And for people that are listening that aren't in,
like you guys are loving this.
Yeah, like it's the nature of like smaller market comedy. But I do think it forces, like, I wouldn't be able to perform. I mean, we did a show together on Tuesday, and it was like a safe space room that has like expectations around what material you can do and how you do that material. It's made me a better comic. And there are some people I know that are like on the South End, that are like, I would never do a room like that. Like, fuck rooms like that. And I'm like, but it makes you better to be able to like.
Yeah. I think it's ironic when they say that, because it's like, so you're also only going to perform in the rooms that you're comfortable in. Like they shit on people for performing in those rooms because it's not making them grow. But it's like, you're not growing by just doing your shitty groups for people that expect your shitty comedy, your brand of comedy or whatever. Right?
Some of it, like, I think, is they don't feel safe there as them. So
yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not for them, and that's okay.
Yeah,
you know.
But
in some way, yeah.
It is if they're willing to like put in the work and respect the rules and do it. Like I've never been in one of those rooms and someone come up to me and say like, "Hey, you shouldn't be here."
Right.
Which
I
mean, you could make a strong argument. I probably shouldn't, but like it's like people like Stephanie Nam, who I'll give her a shout out on here. I'm sure she'll come on at some point. Like she puts in a lot of fucking work to like build a space in our community, and like people that do that, like I don't know. I just wish. There's not as much respect around that there should be. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, let's pick out the one thing that's wrong with this, or the one thing I have a problem with it, and shit all over. Yeah. It's like, you have not been involved with any of this. Like your opinion doesn't matter. Go fuck yourself.
Exactly. Well said. Yeah. Stephanie, for example, is one of the best producers our scene, I think, has ever had.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, if you're gonna shit on that, then okay, like, what are you gaining from that by doing that?
It's just an ego thing.
It's an ego thing. It's 100% ego and just like wanting to have an opinion. Like, it's sad to me, but it's like it's always gonna happen no matter what scene you're in, right?
There's
like I'm sure LA has drama. I'm sure Austin has drama. Like, I've heard crazy stories. So
for sure, and it's just on a bigger magnitude when there's like, networks involved. And shit. I mean, you look at entertainment across the board, it's full of that stuff, but. Back to we've jumped around.
What a journey we've taken. Yeah.
So your parents were first generation here.
Yes.
And then you were born in 94.
Yep.
And you were born in Seattle, born
Kirkland.
Kirkland. Oh shit, signature.
Yeah. I was born in a Costco. Yeah. Right next to the diaper aisle. Yeah. That's where I was born.
But you don't like it here, right? Like we've talked about this. Like shit all over the scene, and
that's what I'm becoming known for. Is here's the thing.
Well, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
It. Like you just said that you feel like you've been here, and it's time for you to look at other stuff.
Yeah,
cleaner, nicer way of
saying the more PC. Yeah. Here's the thing. I do love it here, and I see why people love it here. Seattle has changed also quite significantly since like my parents came here and stuff. Obviously, every city changes. But I was born and raised here, and so it's just like I think everyone should have that experience of going and living somewhere else. And I also feel like I'm just getting really tired of the scene. I'm tired of the weather. I'm tired of some of the living in a bubble, and Seattle is a bubble,
sure.
So
what do you want differently though?
I want to live in a bigger, more diverse city, because I've never really had that chance to be living in a city.
But
so
what about rural areas? Let's put you over...
do they have comedy clubs in rural areas?
Right? Like cornfield, like Chappelle did.
Yeah. I have the Chappelle audience. Yeah, they really love me.
Yeah. Just let's put you in Trump country for 15 minutes.
But you know what? They would eat me up.
They would like you.
They would love me because I have hardworking immigrant parents who came here legally. I would just have to tell one of my jokes and I'd be chased out of town. So
I find it interesting because I've lived in 10 states, so I have you have
a different perspective on it.
Yeah, and I just think in general, people are people. Those lines that get drawn, a lot of times there's people like to draw conclusions about stuff they've never experienced. Kind of like the room that we were just talking about, where it's like they've never been to that space,
and
but
they don't make judgments.
they're going to make judgments. And that goes in every direction.
Yeah.
And I found for the most part, Clayton English, he was a comic from Atlanta that came through, and he was talking about how screens are the issue, where it's people see stuff on a screen and they draw all these conclusions about people, places, and things. But the reality is when you go and hang out with most people, they're good people and they're kind wherever you go. And he also had a thing where he's 1 out of 7 white people has a vineyard. But he's so you just never know.
You never know.
You want it, you want to be cool with everybody.
You want the invite. That's fucking funny.
I think what he's saying makes a lot, from my experience when I've traveled a lot.
Yeah.
There are people that I don't want to associate with, but for the most part, I like most people.
Yeah.
And I do think congregating large amounts of people in one small space, it's like this tent, this boiling pot at times, where it's you're on top of each other and
Sorry, I'm just gonna pause for a second. Take
good.
my earring out so that I don't ruin your. I felt like it was ruining your thing. Okay. Yeah, I also I feel that I can totally vibe with you on that. But I also feel like I've had my perspective shifted just because like we're both white. You know what I mean? Like that's just one small example, right?
For sure.
But like, okay, so like whatever, I studied abroad. Okay, we're not gonna talk about it, but like I remember studying abroad and I was like, in Spain.
Okay.
Important for context. But I remember being like, this is like the best ever. Like I'm having such a good time. And then one of the girls on my trip was like, yeah, people are fucking racist here. And I was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? You know, and I was like, oh, obviously I'm having a completely different experience than you are, where I'm more likely to be welcomed wherever I go than, you know, someone who's like a woman of color, you know? So it's like, that's been, you know, I feel like it's important to be in places and spaces where you're not the dominant, like, welcome, you know, person. Sure. And
my buddy, I did the same thing. We went to Colombia.
Yeah. Oh, my dream.
We went to Cartagena and it was really cool. It was like a mission trip.
Okay.
I was on a lot of drugs. I wasn't in a good place. Like I say
it was
this
a
like
mission trip, but on drugs. Okay.
I call it a mission. We went for a week
to do
help
ayahuasca.
Kids at cancer hospitals and like hand out supplies and stuff.
And but what kinds of drugs were we on?
It was like towards the end of my addiction. So like I was taking like, I think it was like 24 credit hours. I was trying to get to the end. I was just doing too much. Yeah. And like, it was how I was like handling the stress.
Okay.
But
so you're full throttle down there.
Oh yeah. And my buddy's Chinese and he's from Shanghai. We get down through customs. Guys with AK-47 show up and they booted him off the plane, sent him back to South Beach. So he didn't go. He missed like 4 days on the trip, but because Colombia and China had tension at the time, he didn't even get to go. He ate like McDonald's in fucking South Beach for 4 days.
But you're like, have a great time.
He enjoyed himself in South Beach, but like when we got down there, all the Colombians hated him because he was Chinese. So it's not like people are racist
everywhere.
Across races too, right? Like it's not like it just goes one direction.
Yeah.
I've seen some wild shit on basketball courts where like black dudes are calling Asian guys islanders and shit, and they just like there's this weird hierarchy of what you can say and can't say, and like I don't know. It's like it's complicated.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. Like I said, I think it's good to put yourself in sometimes uncomfortable situations, unless it's dangerous. Like I want to clarify that.
With AK-47.
Yeah. But it is kind of bizarre to think about. And then like also like, I don't know, my family's Bosnian. That's like, to me, that's the whitest fucking country on the planet. I thought you were
just white.
I'm like just white. Yeah. No, we are, everyone there is white. Yeah. Like I wish it wasn't that way, but it's just like the whitest, milkiest country you've ever seen. Like it's,
sausage is the like.
But the thing is like there's Roma people there. There's Roma, Romani. I actually don't know what's proper. But it's like there's other like cultures and ethnicities and stuff that have kind of just been wiped out by wars and stuff. Like there used to be a Jewish population in the capital and now it's like 0.003% or something like that.
What do they do for fun there? I don't like I like I feel like I'm like reading like an atlas right now. Like what do you enjoy there?
You know what? People love to go out and
love war.
Yeah, they get a coffee and they drink the same cup of coffee for like 5 hours, which I love. Okay. I love that about my people. I love that they will like sip on something all day. They like
that was the first thing you asked for when you came. You're like, do you have any tea? I need something to sip on.
I'm being sacrilegious by not having coffee, but it's a big coffee culture. Huge. People like to go out and drink and go clubbing, and it's a very social place, which I love. And it's very like relaxed, slower pace life, which I think is beautiful and wonderful. And I'm actually like, it makes me happy that is still like a thing, even through all the wars, that people just like to socialize and be together. And, you know, that has like run through
some of the influences from like Western Europe, right? Like
there's a big Turkish influence there. So a lot of the words some of the words are Turkish and stuff.
But like behaviorally, it just sounds like a slower pace, like it's more Spanish. That's what
comes
to mind.
Actually,
at least.
yeah, I think
I might just be putting that on this situation.
I actually think
it's kind of Spanish.
Hey, everything's a little Spanish, right? No, I think that is accurate though. Like Spain, to me, I feel like a lot of Bosnians would love Spain, and it's I think a similar culture. I've always said Latinos and Balkan people are very, very similar.
Is that why you get along with Chris Mejia so well?
Chris is a fake Latino. No, I'm kidding. That's Chris. I love you. I'm sorry. No, I think no, Chris is a homie, but no, I find myself very much getting along with people who are either from a different culture or background or whatever it is, or their parents are immigrants. I just naturally end up gravitating towards them. I don't get along with people who grew up with money. And just like Wonder Bread whites, basically. Yeah. But I mean, I do. I have friends from, all walks of life. But the people that I click with instantly are the people who probably most likely have parents from somewhere else.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I just think there is something. Obviously every culture is unique and beautiful in its own way, but there is something about the immigrant experience and I think being othered and seeing your parents be othered, where we can live in both worlds, right? As their children, for the most part, at least I can. No one ever clocks that I'm, from somewhere else. Maybe if they see my name written down. But like watching your parents live through those experiences and just seeing their fears and anxieties of coming to a new country, you're just raised differently. You just are. And so I think there is kind of this, thorough, put through line of all cultures kind of can feel this kind of sense of camaraderie.
Are you kind of like a parent at times for them where you have this firsthand experience here and they maybe didn't have some of those experiences. So you're helping them through different things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say I've parented them, but there's certainly things that I feel like I've had to help them unlearn.
For example,
or is it my parents just will never do anything nice for themselves, and it drives me crazy. They just would never be yeah, we should just go out to dinner, or I should go get my nails done or something, and it's just been so hard to teach them that it's you're not always on survival mode kind of thing. So they think I'm this wild child, which is really funny because I'm not. But just teaching them to enjoy life and not always be stressed, because that's what their whole lives have been, right? They came to this country when they were about my age with 2 kids and no money, no job, no papers. You have to figure out your entire life from scratch in the best years of your life. And so you're always going to be on survival mode. And then there's obviously things that they couldn't help me with. And I think that was really painful for them. I think when we were all applying for college, that was really hard on my mom, because she would works on Mercer Island, and all the parents there are super wealthy and helping their kids with their applications or SAT prep or whatever it is. And my mom's just I have no idea what anyone is talking about. So I think that was really, really painful for her. And I understand that now looking back, but I was just okay, I'll just figure it out on my own. It wasn't a big deal to me, but I think it was for her.
Yeah. It's weird when you get older too, and you start seeing your parents just
as human beings.
Oh I don't know when it took me to, I think it was a couple years of therapy where I was you know what? They just had kids. They were
figuring it out.
Yeah.
Dude, I literally have these moments where I'll just think of a random thing my mom did for me and I'll burst into tears, because we were always good kids, but I was really resentful of my mom when I was in middle school, because she made us move school districts. And so I kind of was I really was mad at her, and she just wanted us to go to a better school.
Yeah.
She's what the fuck? But I didn't understand that at the time, because I just felt she was taking me away from my friends, and we didn't hang out with people on the weekends. Your friends were just at school, and that's when you hang out. So that's why I loved school. But like the other day, I remember like my mom, for every like holiday, she would take us to the bookstore. We could each pick out a book, and like books were expensive back then, you know, like children's books, like they were not cheap, those little hardcover books. Or like she saw like all the kids were wearing North Faces, and so she like, you know, figured out like how much they were and like saved for each of us to like have a North Face too, so that like I never felt like we were poor growing up because of my mom, and I didn't know until many years later. Or like she'd book vacations for us, which like I can barely figure out how to do that, and I was born and raised here, and my mom was just like, yeah, we're gonna take you guys to Hawaii, like, you know, like it was just like we were living. My mom is so she's the best. Yeah.
Shout out your mom.
Shout out Lil Minka. Lil Minka, she's so cute. She's like 2 feet tall.
Hearing that in this mic too is just like, it's all velvety.
Yeah, I know. Lil Minka. It's the new rapper on the scene, Lil Minky.
Yeah, so funny. All right, let's talk about writing a little bit.
Okay.
So you write for Flexx Mag, Slackjaw. I read some of your stuff.
Oh, okay. What'd you think?
I enjoyed it. I really liked the Foreigner blog stuff, which like the stuff that you had written.
Yeah.
And then you're doing like editing stuff for that. But like, when did you get into writing, and like, was it just like you always saw yourself as a Carrie, or?
Yeah. I'm more of a Samantha, please. No, so the reason that I wanted to do comedy actually was because I wanted to write like my own stuff and perform my own stuff.
Okay.
And so it just seemed easy access, right? Because it was like, okay, well, I can think of something a night and go say it on stage the same night, you know?
Stand
so
up.
yeah. And then I always like, I had written sketches in high school, and I'd always written poetry. I won't reveal.
Were the sketches like part of a theater class or something?
It was like for a talent show, and it was like a comedic, like we were the comedic relief between the acts.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of experience doing that, but I had always written, like I would write essays, like journal, just like on my own, like a fucking nerd. Like I was a nerd.
Were you a big reader too?
Yeah. As a kid, I read a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you take the ACTs or SATs?
Oh, I did SATs. Yeah.
Okay. Did you kill it on?
I don't remember. I literally don't even remember my score.
Because you went to UW, like it's a good school.
Yeah, I hated it.
You didn't like it?
It wasn't the school for me. It's
did
a great
do well,
school.
Though?
I had 2 majors, poli-sci and Spanish. Spanish killed it, crushed it, was so good. And then I thought I wanted to do business, and then I fucking hated it. And so I dropped that real quick. And didn't even finish the prereqs. And then I was like, okay, well, what was I good at in high school? I guess I'll do that. And it was poli-sci. And I was like really good at poli-sci for like, you know, the first, I did college in 3 years, by the way. So for like the first 2 years, because of my credits from high school.
Oh, AP
and so,
classes?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I did really well in poli-sci, so I think I could do this. And that's literally the only reason that I chose poli-sci. And then the last year of college, I literally remember it was like the last week of school. And I'm sitting there in one of my poli-sci classes, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to fucking do anything with this degree. Like, I hated it. I hated people who were in my classes. Like, I was just so miserable. And it was nothing that I wanted to do. And thank God I had Spanish, because I really, I think that got me through, like, not feeling so miserable.
It's weird when you have to abbreviate the name of your major, too, right? Like, poli-sci. It sounds like a fucking genre of something.
It's like a sci-fi novel or something.
I worked, like, those people came into law school.
The worst.
The worst. So, like, they were talking about things that I had never even heard of before. Like, I had a weird experience where I got sober the year before I went to law school.
Okay.
So I was still trying to figure out how to live life, without being
function without going crazy.
Yeah. And it was not the right. Like, I just remember being like, I'm trying to be open to everybody right now, but like,
these are not the folks.
You are fucking weird. Like, it was.
Yeah. Most of the people in the poli-sci major, at least at UW, were like dudes and frats who were just like, yeah, I guess I'll go intern in DC because that's what my dad did. Like, God, there was this one dude in my class who was just insufferable, but it was just, yeah. So
were they just, like right wing?
And I don't even know. I don't think so. I think it was a mix.
Okay.
But God, he was so entitled. Yeah.
Was there a lot of like conservative people on UW's campus?
There's like a conservative group, like the Young Republicans and stuff, but mostly I met, most people are liberal. I feel like if you're going to the Seattle, campus, but I'm sure there's conservatives.
Like the quiet ones.
Yeah, just listening in the classroom. Yeah.
That's always interesting. I never even thought about that shit.
Yeah.
Because I went to school in Indiana and then I moved out here.
Yeah.
And it was just such a big transition. Like
culture shock, probably.
Well, I was in Vegas between then. Okay. And it was such a transition.
The three most different places: Indiana, Vegas, and Seattle.
Vegas is like a weird socioeconomic place.
I've never been.
To live there is very strange because it's like a lot of the poor whites, like the very like conservative poor whites.
Yeah.
But then mixed with like a lot of liberal people from like Vegas proper.
Okay.
And it's a weird blend.
Yeah.
And then the rest of Nevada is very red. Like if you drive through central and northern Nevada, there's like 200 miles of where like it's like no gas for 200 miles. You're like,
what?
It's terrible. Like I did that.
That's actually
like
terrifying.
2 a.m. Amy Miller, she was driving from here to Vegas to do the Comedy Cellar in Vegas, and I was like, do not drive through like the shortcut through Central Nevada because if you break down,
you're fucked. Yeah.
It's like Jeepers Creepers, like just like it's such a questionable. I was terrified. Like it was, and I mean, I had like a lead pipe in my car just in case because I drove through Chicago a lot. I was like, you just don't, you don't know.
Yeah.
And fuck that area.
Yeah.
But how did we get on that?
Writing. So I was always writing. I took creative writing classes, things like that. But I was just like, I feel like some of the jokes that I'm writing maybe aren't serving me on stage. Maybe they should be written down or something. So
explain that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's some jokes where like it's just like one small line that I have an idea for, and I'm like, yeah, but I can't act it out or something, or it'd be better if it was like there was exposition with it or something like that. So, like I'm sure that you have like jokes that maybe you've written for like a sketch or something different, or it's maybe a throwaway line or something that you just think is really funny,
stuff
but
about
it's
my
not.
Younger brother.
Hey, shout out to Austin. He works at a bank. But and so I was like, okay, let me try like figuring this out. I started reading a lot of like satire blogs just to like, have something to read every morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this out. So I started like pitching some pieces and they got into some places and I just kept kind of going with it.
What's that process like for like submitting stuff? Like, are you like writing a shitload of stuff and then only hearing back a little bit, or like?
It really depends on the site, and so it's like there's some sites that get back to you super quick. There's some that are very, very slow. So it just really depends. But I usually like some places ask for just headlines. Some places ask for fully written pieces. So I've done both, where it's like I've either just had the idea and the headline, or I've just had a full piece written and I just want to get it up somewhere.
Do you work for the Needling too? Like,
I don't know. I don't work for them. I've had a few like headlines, sent in headlines and stuff. But I forget. I think I had like a Costco one up or something. Yeah, I thought I saw
different. You put up something.
It was a long time ago, but yeah, they're great at the Needling though. They're super awesome.
Yeah, they seem like what so. You're doing stand-up and you're doing this, and then do you have a day job right now, or are you not?
So I did.
You quit, right?
Yeah, I quit. Still looking for something permanent. I've just been doing like freelance production stuff. But at the time when I started writing, it was like day job writing, stand up, and all the works. So it is a little insane, but it's also like there were some nights where the mics weren't good, so I would just write that night instead of going to a mic, so like you figure it out. It's not do
you prefer writing versus stand up, or like do you like, because you've written some sketches. Speaking of Burunji, by the way, I watched the immigrant therapy sketch with him and Adi and you.
That's one of my
really
favorites.
Good.
That's one of my favorites.
Anybody watching, fucking go. Is it on your YouTube?
I should get it on Instagram. Maybe I'll do it when this is about to come out. But it should be on YouTube or on the Facebook page. But yeah, that's one of my favorites, just because that was actually the start for me of like starting to feel comfortable talking about like my parents and stuff. So it was a good kind of intro into it. But
it's really funny.
Yeah, he killed it too in that one. Not to compliment Burunji.
No, not too much. I mean, he is super generous with advice and just being there for everybody, but
totally outfit advice,
just all kinds of advice, and to new comedians.
He's
like giving people, if you send him like a set, if you just tried the first open mic ever, he would love to, and see it. He'll do it for free.
He'll pay you actually.
He doesn't care about any of that. It's not about that. It's just about helping. But so back to like the craft of writing a little bit. Do you have like a practice with it, or like
I should in theory?
It's hard. Like
it's hard to create content. It's hard to even make enough jokes sometimes, especially when you're feeling drained. But I try to like, sit down and, just flood with ideas and see what sticks, and then start writing to which piece I feel most, inspired by, or which headline or whatever. But it's hard. There's like, when people say they have a process down, like when Jerry Seinfeld's like, I write for 2 hours every morning, I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. I feel like a lot of creative people, that's just not how your brain works. I mean, I think it is good to like have a schedule and stuff, but sometimes like it just hits you out of nowhere. Like a lot of the best pieces and my favorite pieces have just been like 30-minute like fever dreams where I'm just like, I have this idea and I have to write it down immediately. There's so many levels to it. Have you ever read Stephen King's On Writing? No. I've been recommended many times, but I've just never gone around to reading it.
It's fucking great. Like it talks a lot about what you've mentioned, and he did, spoiler alert, in his daily practice he did get hit by a car. Like he like writes, he takes a nap, and he goes for a walk.
Okay, and every day he gets hit by a car.
No, just that one time. But it was like part of his daily practice ended up with him getting hit by a car. So maybe your point about
maybe I'm right. Practice. Switch it up a little bit, Stephen King. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten hit by a car.
Wouldn't be in a wheelchair.
What a loser. No, okay. Sorry, that was bad.
I think I've read pretty much every fucking book on comedy writing there is, though. Like during the pandemic,
some of them are so bad and trite.
But the things like, if anyone listening is looking to get into comedy writing,
don't encourage them.
We don't need any more competition. But like, I love comedy writing. It's my favorite thing in this like, realm of stuff. And I think knowing that you have that like creative side of your brain and then the editor side, and not trying to do both at the same time is really important. It took me a long time to realize that, because sometimes it's like the ideas are flooding. That's not the time to be like, well how do we feel about this? It's like that, just let it go. And then edit, like also like looking at your stuff and really, you can be your own editor, but there needs to be space there. Like it's not, you are not a good judge of if something's funny
Well, and one of my favorite things is reading other people's stuff or stepping away from my own stuff and coming back to it later, because it is that piece of like, you can't be editing when you're in the idea stage. Like being a creative person is already hard enough. You can't be like, you're hindering your creative process by not letting yourself go as wacky as you can with the joke, or just have all the ideas and then come back and be like, okay, it's easier to cut out and edit than to like just have yourself stay in your little lane.
Yeah. That's why I kind of get bummed when sometimes like you'll be at like mics or shows or whatever, and you can see someone's experimenting.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't go well, it's sort of like,
they back off.
Well, no, like there's this mindset of like protecting yourself. Like, oh, you like that person tried that thing stupid and it didn't work out. Like,
and it's like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
But there are some people that like judge that. It's like, dude, you can't.
Yeah,
you can't expand on what you're doing unless you try something new, which inherently means that there's the potential for it to like, if all you're doing is like protecting your ego, you're never gonna.
I think I do that. I think I did that a lot, and maybe still do, where it's like you get nervous on stage because you want every set to be good, but that's just not the reality of doing stand up, you know? Yeah. And it's like when I've been, you know, like, oh, there's this weird joke I want to do, but I don't think it's really for me. And it's like, why can't it be for me? You know, like, fuck it. Like, no one gets to decide what your voice is except for you, you know? So,
yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of people, like, comics are supposed to help each other, and it's really beneficial.
First time hearing.
Like, it's like those generous ones out there. Yeah. But I do think there are times where it's like people are outside of their lanes and trying to like sort of tell you what you need to be doing. And none of us really know. It's like you said, like creative, anything is so difficult. And it's this subjective thing. And
it takes a long time to find your own voice, like not to be so like, oh, about comedy, but like it is like, it's hard to be like, oh, this feels right, or this is my process, or this is what I enjoy talking about on stage, you know? And then it's like, and when that changes for you, that's also okay. You know, so.
Well, if you don't write for 2 hours a day, you're a fucking piece of shit. You know, you're not Jerry Seinfeld.
You should quit.
Who's for everyone. You know, like it's.
Yeah, he very clearly has not, like, to have 2 hours free every morning. He's not taking care of the kids. You know what I mean?
No, like, I mean, that's the benefit of being with someone that's like 30 years younger than you, that you can just tell what to do.
Yeah, his advice is so stupid. Like, sorry, but like, it's just not practical advice for people.
For sure.
You know? And I just, it's silly.
I did. So, do you know who Tom Morello is? He's like a guitar player. He was in like Audio Slave and Rage Against the Machine.
Sure.
He's like, it's not for everyone, but he's just super talented, like really good. I was watching this interview with him where he went to Harvard and like studied history and political science or something.
Oh, he's one of those.
He is one of those. But he was talking about practicing like 4 hours or 8 hours a day, just to like master his craft. And I do think there's benefit to like, you gotta be able to like get these like things working so you can execute what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But then there's also the element of like, if you're just sitting at a desk for 2 hours a day, what are you commenting on? Like you have to live a life that's worth commenting on, or else like, so my desk is over there and I get my leather chair and I sit over there
and it's tufted. I just want to say that beautiful word in the mic. Tufted.
Looks out at Dog Poop Park.
No, I mean, you have to put the hours in, right? Like that is true. But it's also like, you know what? Some people, there's some new comics who just got it.
Oh yeah.
They just got it, and they go up and they do their little mic twice a week, and they got it, and they fucking crush, and they have that it thing.
For sure.
You know,
there is something called talent, right? Like, like God-given talent, where some people hate to hear this, but like when Dave Chappelle, he was 18 years old, he went up and he crushed the first time he did stand-up, or he was like 15 or something at the DC Improv, and literally got into the cellar by the time he was like 18, because older comics that saw him were like,
Yeah.
he has something,
Yeah.
right? Like LeBron James was in the NBA at 18.
Yeah.
There is a natural ability to do certain crafts.
There is something about like people believing in them as well, right? And being like, oh, they have something, but then also giving them the opportunity to practice and nurturing that talent, right? But I think there are some people who just like, there are some people who should not be doing comedy and they do it. And that's great because it's like, for them, it's just a hobby, right? Yeah. They're taking my stage time, but okay.
Like Mike DeVore. He's a hobby comedian. Yeah.
Maybe stick to something else. No,
he
but
hates
then
it so much when I say that. It hurts his feelings so much. He's probably watching this.
No, Mike's hilarious.
Oh, he's so
but I mean, there's also people who they could do comedy forever and they just don't, and they're good, but they just don't want to push to that next level, right? Like there's no formula there. That's the hard thing about this career and industry, right? Is that no one can tell you what it's going to be, who it's going to be.
If you're 5'4", you're probably not going to dunk. Like it's
hey.
Look, we can go get you on a plyo program and just see, like, we'll get those calves as big and juicy as possible.
I am so vengeful. I will literally, out of spite, learn how to dunk now. That's just what it is.
Just go for it.
Yeah, go for it.
But like that, the same is true for funny, right? Like it's not. You can
some people just ain't funny, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just. Some people just don't got it. Some people don't.
There's
I'm just
literally
shitting on people, but like, I think there is like something to be said about like, not even charisma, maybe that's the wrong word, but when you see someone on stage and they're engaging, you know, whether it's deadpan or, you know, prop comedy or whatever it is, somebody who catches your attention, I don't think you can teach that.
Yeah.
Just agree with me.
No, I was thinking back to what you said about the like writing and being sensitive and thing. Like, there's different reasons for being funny, but I think like a lot of comics use humor as a defense mechanism. Like, they were uncomfortable at some point in their life. And they figured out a way to be comfortable was to use this rubber sword.
And to be in control of the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you have like a big ego and you're like super confident and like charismatic or whatever, you might be like funny at times or whatever, and like be able to do this thing, but that doesn't mean that you're like a comic. Like, I think like if you're a comic, you've been a comic your whole life. Because you put a microphone in your hand doesn't mean that like you're now more of that person. Like it's
well, see, I think there's some people who are not funny day to day, but on stage that's their platform to be funny. Like, I think that can also be true, you know?
Like, give me an example of maybe not locally, but like.
But I mean, like, I think people think comics off stage are like, whoa, like always cracking jokes. And it's like, but no. Like, you know.
No, I'm that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like, there's a lot of very funny people that like, they process the world through this point of view of funny to like make sense of stuff. But that doesn't mean that they're like the idea of what, like, I've had a lot of people come up to me and be like, I didn't think you were going to be funny, but you were funny. And it's
Isn't that like a kind of a slap in the I've had that too a lot.
What? Like, I thank you, I guess. Like, it's a weird thing.
Well, see, I always like, I agree with you, but I think that like, I always kind of get a little bit like, I always want to challenge people when they're like, oh, you like all comedians are depressed. I think a large majority of us have dealt with something like that. But I also think like there's a deep irony in that has not been addressed, where it's like, okay, if we're also depressed, but our lens is joy and laughter, we're also maybe more joyful and more happy than the average people. So we can equally be more depressed than the average person and also more joyful. Like, to me, comedy is kind of like it's A, the element of surprise, and B, it's joy, right? So it's like I'm not that sad that I can't laugh about my pain, you know? Like I don't want to say that people use comedy to cope, because I think that's dangerous. Like, go get a therapist. But like,
but you just said laugh about your, like,
yeah,
I guess
but you can do that in that lens, right? But I also think there's just people who have had good lives, who went to Harvard and their parents were wealthy and they got on the Comedy Journal at their school, and they don't deal with any mental health, and they crush comedy, you know? So
or do improv.
Yeah. You know, everyone quit stand up and go do improv. We don't need any more people. Yeah.
But what you said though is like, I think there was a point in your life or my life where it was like, are you going to cry about this, or are you going to laugh about this?
Yeah.
And at some point there was there was this crossing of wires, right?
Yeah.
Where not every, like, you ever make a dark joke for someone like Bo Johnson, like I did on this podcast several like years ago now, where it was a really dark joke and he just looked at me and it was like nothing, like I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to say that again in front of you. Yeah. But it's like, I had tragic, dark things happen.
Yeah.
And I had to like either laugh about it or cry. Yeah. And I probably did both.
Yeah.
But like,
it's just a different, I think it's like part of, you know how they say there's like 5 stages of grief? Mm-hmm. I think it's like an extra.
The 6th stage.
You know, it's like I think, I don't know. Maybe it's discomfort. Maybe it is a defense mechanism. But like, I wooed when your friend died. Like, you know. And to me, it's like I really enjoy talking about uncomfortable things. Mm-hmm. You know, and I don't want to say that and then have people email me.
like you know what? You don't have to be mentally ill.
But like
this, but uncomfortable things.
I know it's taboo, but like I enjoy talking about death. I enjoy talking about, you know, like things that make people, like the things that you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table. You know, I think like those are the important things in life, you know, maybe not politics, but like, you know, like the things that are hard and heavy, we can make a little bit lighter. And it's not necessarily like me being like going up on stage and talking about my own trauma, but like being able to talk about things as a general thing, I think is powerful.
I agree.
Yeah. I just don't like when people go on stage and it's like, I hate to say this because it's going to come out wrong, but it's like, you know, you're just like sharing your trauma for shock value kind of thing. And it's like there's a fine line between like making an audience uncomfortable and bringing them into your world, you know?
I would say though, so you mentioned like the immigrant sketch.
Yeah.
And that was something that you were processing at that time. You said. Part of some people's journey is like they got to go through that in order to peel back the onion to the next level. And so like, I know exactly what you're talking about, like using shock and conflating that with funny. Right. But in order to like get to that next,
you have to be able to, get
you have
through
to fail.
That. Yeah.
And so like, however somebody wants to go up there and paint.
Right. It's like their pain. They can talk about it however they want.
But like, how do you know if you're scared about talking about something because you don't know how to talk about it? The only way that you're going to get through that is talking about it. And then once you do, you're like, okay, so these are the areas where like I can work with, and but it's hard. You know? Like,
it is hard. Yeah.
And there's no other way to do it besides like going up there. And fucking like, I don't know how this is going to go, but you know.
That is true. I'll give you that. Okay. I agree with you. No further points.
No,
it is true. And I think like I've done that like too with my own failures of like, I when I first started doing comedy, maybe like a year in, I started talking about my parents and then I stopped because I was not having fun with it. And I hated all the jokes I was writing about them. And I just was not connecting with my own material. So I was like, how's anyone else gonna, you know, relate to this? And then like 2.5, 3 years later, picked it back up and started writing more stuff about them that I actually enjoyed. So it took me a minute to like figure out, you know, how to do it in a way that like honors them, but is also funny and
sometimes you're just too close.
You're too close. Yeah. Yeah.
And it feels like you should be, but you're not. Like, you kind of know. It just takes some time to figure out, like, no, this isn't.
Yeah,
it's hard,
totally.
though.
Yeah. And I think like I go through these like writing periods, maybe this happens to you too, where it's like there's one topic that I just like, man, I have like 20 minutes on this one topic now. And then a few months later, I'm like, oh, it's this new topic. And I like become obsessive about writing about like one area of my life. So I'll have like, a solid 30 about my parents, and then I haven't written anything about any other thing for ever. But yeah,
it's fucking, I don't know. I feel like it's like this weird, like, I think I understand like how to piece together my material, and it's some stuff I've gotten a lot of traction on, but it's then other times Joe List said this thing once. He said to Quinn Fitzgerald, like when he was headlining, about using like indicators in your sets about like if you're getting material working, that's a good indicator of like stay with that and keep really like trying to blow that out as much as you can. Where I think like people get something to work and it's like, okay, well, let's see if I can get this to work and then this to work, and like it's like maybe keep pushing that idea as far as you can, because you already have something that works. Where before I was like, oh, I want to talk about this. It's it's really hard to piece together like 10 like good minutes where you're getting like 4 to 6 laughs a minute. Consistently. Like that's fucking
that's an insane thing to do.
But that's what a headliner does. Like that's a real headliner. So like if you're gonna do 10 minutes, that's 60 laughs on that material.
That's 3 1/3 mics. Like if you're just getting 3 minutes of time every time and you're trying to piece together something that's 10 minutes long, you know what I mean? Like that sucks.
I've heard like at least like Ralphie May's masterclass, he was talking about if you write, he said, write for each mic or every time you're getting on stage, 5 points for a new joke. 2 points for a new tag, or maybe one point for a new tag, and then 2 points for rearranging material. And if you score 12 or above on each mic that you do, over the course of a year, you'll have 20 to 25 minutes of material. That's how long it should take, like for someone that's getting up anywhere from 8 to 12 times a week. So like to get like that level, like headliner level of
solid
material. And that's a lot of fucking work. Like to write a new joke for each one of those. And
then you'll have people come up to you after shows and be like, oh, you didn't do any new. Like my friends will come up to me and be like, you didn't do any new jokes tonight. And I'm like, it's an act. It's it's like it takes so long.
But that is new jokes.
Right. Like, but they know the premise, so it's just kind of hilarious.
People like shit on those systems or whatever. But I think like having some kind of like targetable thing where you're like, hey, this is what's pushing this forward.
I mean, there's nothing worse than seeing people go up at mics and do already solid material.
I don't know what, like,
because you like, it's funny, obviously, and you're going to crush that mic, but you're not like adding anything new or, like it's just like if it's already baked, then try something different, unless
performance wise you're adding something new,
or sometimes you just need to get the words out, and practice. Like especially when comedy was first starting back up, I was like, I don't remember any of my jokes, I don't feel inspired by any of the new material, I just need to feel comfortable holding a microphone again and not shaking every time I'm on stage. But there's that part of it too. But I mean, like material wise, like not, if you go out to a mic or you're even double dipping and doing the same set at 2 different mics, like what are you doing? Like
I guess
it's a fear thing.
It is, but then there's also like if you're making this painting, like the bit is the painting that you're making. If you have all the lines drawn and you've done all your shading, maybe that's like if you're fucking with the performance and how you're saying stuff versus what you're saying, then there's color to that. Like, I think you can make the argument, but if you're doing everything
straight through
the same exact way, it's just a way to keep yourself from failing, which you're gonna feel stale doing that, and you're probably gonna fail because failing with good material because you're like bored with it.
It's embarrassing.
It's bad.
I can always, and you know, obviously it's jokes I've heard, but like even with my friends, I can tell when they're just like stiff on stage, and I'm like, you're just out of body performing right now. Like, you have to have fun like it's the first time you're ever telling the joke. You know, like it's just
hard though. When like what you said, where you like when you're writing, you're supposed to be full of joy, but you feel like presence, shit. Man. Like it's hard. It's
rough. But you know, it's a process, and part of it is just us being afraid.
For sure.
You know, like it totally is. Yeah.
Okay, one last question before we go into the story section.
I love it.
And as a reminder, everybody watching, if you're watching us on YouTube, any questions or comments for our guests, please put them in there and make sure to submit them on the episode on YouTube. If you enjoyed this episode so far, hit the thumbs up icon. That helps us with the algorithm and the notifications bell so you don't miss any of our content. Commenting, liking, and hitting the notifications bells helps us with YouTube on the algorithm, as I just said.
I love answering questions.
Okay, that's good. Last little question on this section, though. Like, best thing that you found for writer's block?
Oh, reading other people's stuff, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they unblock their own writing, but honestly, like sometimes scrolling through Twitter or those satire sites or something,
jarring something loose.
You know, just to be like, oh, this is what other people are talking about or thinking about. And it's like, you're going to have your own unique perspective on something, no matter what it is. So, like scrolling and reading other people's stuff. Yeah. To be honest.
I like that. John Gard, who I'm not sure if you've met him yet,
but know. Yeah.
He was on recently, and he was saying in John Kleck's book, the guy from Monty Python.
Oh yes, okay.
He said before you start writing, every time you should play for like an hour.
Yeah.
Like play game and just
open your mind up. Yeah.
And have fun.
Take
like, because it's hard to
be
funny when you're being serious. But
yeah,
that's a great segue into our story time section.
Ooh, la, la.
It's really good.
Ooh.
It's story time. It's story time with Phantom. Yeah, it's story time.
Sexy
it's story
R&B song.
time with Phantom and friends.
That's an R&B Disney Channel song.
That's Jago right there.
Oh my
check
God,
him out.
So good.
Okay. You brought a story most embarrassing moment with your parents or any just whatever.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. My parents never really embarrassed me.
I feel like you tightened up right as I said that. It's like, I just had a note on my computer. Yeah. Like,
no, I just,
don't say that.
Well, I can tell a story I started telling and then never finished. But how they came here.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents, though, they never really embarrassed me aside from maybe once or twice, but I'm not very easily embarrassed as well. So that's great for me. But I mean, obviously this story is from before I was born because it was when they were coming here. But basically the war happened in Bosnia, ethnic, religious things. My dad was in 2 concentration camps.
Shit.
Yeah. So real shit, that I will never have to go through. But my dad was in 2 concentration camps and then finally reunited with my mom at a refugee camp. What's the difference between those camps? They're kind of similar, but they're not beating you to death at one, I guess. Anyways,
this is that laughing versus crying.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. But my parents' lives are incredibly poetic in a weird way where it almost feels, it almost makes me feel like there's a divine power, in a way. Because my dad, he got out of the camps. He's reunited with my mom. And also my middle sister was born in refugee camps. And then finally they're like, okay, we're going to start figuring out what countries are granting asylum to immigrants to come, be in their country. And basically the way that works, and I think they went through the Red Cross, if I'm not mistaken. But the way it works is that countries basically decide like, oh, we'll let this many people in, or, they can come to our country, but they can only be here for 6 months or whatever it was. So each kind of country sets their own parameters. So at the time, my parents were like, man, they're taking forever to place us. And it's supposed to be that it's like families get first priority and then single people are kind of last on the list because they can more easily slot them into whatever country. And my mom's like, we're the last family here. Like single people have started going. And this is like a true testament to like my mom and my dad's relationship, because my mom's like, we need to say something. And my dad's like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to him. He goes over there and he's like, yeah, they just said we have to wait. And my mom's like, no, like they did not just say that we have to wait. Like, what are you talking about? Did you tell them what I told you to tell them? Because basically they would have these meetings with like the supervisors and the Red Cross people. And so usually my dad just went, or my dad and mom went alone, and they would have someone, kind of help watch their kids and stuff. And that this time my mom was like, no, I'm going to the meeting and I'm bringing the kids. And the guy who runs it was like, oh shit, like don't do that. Like he knew he was in trouble because basically he'd been getting bribes from some people and stuff. Fuck. And prioritizing them going to other, like the single people going to other countries. And so my parents were like, what the fuck? Yeah. And so my mom's like, no. And she said to the guy, she goes, you know what? I don't speak very good English right now, but I'm going to memorize every single thing that you're saying at that meeting. And if you translate anything that I'm saying incorrectly, because he was the translator, she was like, I will haunt you for the rest of your life. Like she was like, I will remember this and I will ruin your life. Like this is how fierce my mom is. Like the world spins because of her. And so they go to the meeting and the people there are like, bro, why is this family still here? Like there's no more families on the list. Like why are they still here? Who are these people? And so he realizes he's in trouble. So very quickly they're like, okay, like here are the countries that are left. Like you can go to Norway. And my mom's like, I'm not going to fucking Norway. Like she's a refugee, but she's being choosy. She's like, it's way too cold in Norway. And then they were like, you can go to Australia. My mom's like, oh my God, like Australia is literally the end of the earth. Like I'm not going there either. Like what else is left, and they were like, okay, well you can go to Germany, but you can only be there for like 3 months or something weird like that, because they were kind of having everyone go back because Germany's like, we only want y'all for a little bit. And so finally they were like, okay, well the last option is like Seattle opened up. It was just opening up to refugees. And so my dad, being who he is, was like, you know what? At this point, I don't care anymore. Just take me to wherever it's best for my girls. Like, very sweet moment. And so my dad and mom, they get placed in Seattle, and they're like, where is Seattle? And my dad finds this like old map, and they like look on the map and they see where Seattle is. And like my mom's never been on a plane, but my dad has, because he worked in Algeria. And he like knew how long the plane ride was from like, Bosnia to Algeria. And he's like, takes a string and he measures, and he's like, okay, well, I know how many hours that is. So he's like measuring to how long it'll take to go to Seattle. And he's like, oh my God, like I think that from like where we're flying from in Europe to New York, will be like about the same amount of time as it takes from New York to Seattle. And my mom's like, you're drunk. Like, like, what do you mean? Like, there's no way America's that big. Like, they couldn't believe how long the plane ride was going to be. And my dad was like, okay, yeah, fine. Like, we'll see how long the plane ride is. And it ended up being, they went from like the refugee camps, and then they flew to Austria. So I think they flew out of Vienna, which weirdly enough, they saw Bill Cosby filming something there or performing something in a glass cage. I know, what an omen. And then they went from Vienna to New York, and then you have to overnight in New York for 24 hours for your paperwork. Like they were really putting them through it. Like they barely had diapers, all this stuff. And then they went from New York to
with you guys?
With my sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. New York to Seattle. And it was just like the longest journey. And finally my dad's like, yeah, so see, it was pretty long. Pretty long plane ride. I'm like, that's the one and last time my dad has ever been correct. And then so after they it's
that
true.
took me a second.
Yeah. After they got here, so they didn't let people like film at the airport, like out of respect to the refugees and stuff, but they had like a welcome picnic for my, like some of the other refugees on the plane and stuff. There was one other family that still lives here in Seattle as well, and then a bunch of single people. And a bunch of people were interviewing my dad at the time because he was one of the only people that was in the concentration camps when people were first coming over here. And I had always heard that they had interviewed him at this like welcome picnic, but I only knew because we had like photos of it. We never had the video or anything. And I don't have any photos of like my parents when they were younger or anything like that. And so I was like, man, I've always wanted to find this footage and like, you know, see what it was like and like what they asked him and stuff. And so I like emailed a bunch of news stations and I emailed Como 4. And I was like, hey, do you guys have anything from like, you know, archival footage from like, you know, I think it was like July of like 93 or whatever, whenever it was. And they were like, yeah, we'll look. But like, to be honest, most of our stuff is on paper records. So it might take us a while, blah, 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 like all this back and forth. And then this awesome guy who works there, he was like, sends it over at like 1 a.m. He found this video of my dad and my,
Really?
Yeah, it's like so cool. I have to show you. But like, it was so cool to like see that. And it's like 4 days after they just had that huge journey, you know, coming over
send
here.
Send that to me afterwards.
Yeah.
We'll plug it in the
yeah.
like,
it was just so cool. And so like I have this footage. I'm watching it alone in my room bawling, by the way. Like I'm alone watching it and I'm like, oh man, like now do I show it to him? Is it going to be emotional?
Why did I ask if you were there?
Well,
you
it's
weren't
confusing.
born yet.
Yeah, it's
like,
it's confusing.
How many
though.
sisters do you have?
2 older sisters.
Okay, so you're the youngest.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we're all very close in age, so we're like in a row.
Oh wow.
So, yeah. So I found that footage of my dad. He's so cute. I was like really nervous to show my family because it's an emotional thing, you know, and they hadn't seen it really ever since, you know, that time. And I don't even think they saw it at the time because I don't think they had a TV, like, you know. So I showed them the footage and I think my dad was getting kind of like emotional and kind of, you know, tearing up, and he like goes to the garage when he needs a private moment, and then he walks back in and he was like, I'm just so proud of you. And I was like, what? Like, what is this emotion you're expressing? He was like, I'm just really proud of you that you did that, like that you went through all that trouble to find that. And it was kind of like this cute little moment we had. But yeah, that's how they got here. Yeah, it's wild.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent storytelling.
No, it was fun. Like we've had. Everybody's different with what they bring on.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know what to expect, what it would be. So
I know, for just some weird stories.
Sure.
I had a few I could have chosen, but you know,
I liked it. It's heartfelt. It was good.
Yeah.
Before we end, anything you want to plug, like your personal website or Instagram or whatever?
Yeah, definitely check out The Foreigner, which is the blog that I run. So it's like for immigrants and children of immigrants and diaspora to see their life through humor and see it through that lens. So I'm really proud of that. And then obviously check out my comedy. Everything's at Arijana Ramic or Arijana Ramic. So
we'll put that in the show notes for everybody.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
That
This
was
was fun. Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening and watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to rate and review us. If you watch us on YouTube, please make sure to hit the like and notifications bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And as always, follow us on Instagram at FNFpod. We're going to leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave pool.